Hey guys, tonight we delve into a tale of dreams, dust, and hidden gold. You find yourself waking up in the blistering heat of Baghdad, the dawn sun slicing through crooked wooden shutters, painting your ragged blanket with strips of pale gold. The call to prayer echoes through the alleys, rippling over flat rooftops where stray cats stretch and pigeons flutter into a sky already turning white with heat. You probably won't survive this day with your dignity intact, considering you went to sleep clutching a single copper coin under your pillow like a dragon hoarding its last scale. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with where you're listening from tonight and your local time, because I love seeing how far these midnight journeys travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You rise, bones aching from the stone floor of the ruin you've been calling home ever since creditors seized your last shop. Your robe is stiff with dust, your beard matted with sleep. As you trudge down to the Tigris riverbank, fishermen haul up nets glittering with silver flashes. You can't afford even a grilled minnow for breakfast. The smell makes your stomach twist, and your thoughts darken like oil spreading through water. Historians still argue whether street food stalls in 9th century Baghdad sold fish soup flavored with coriander, or whether coriander only arrived in bulk centuries later. Either way, you stand staring at a pot bubbling on a brazier, the scent curling around your nose like a teasing lover. You shuffle away, clutching your stomach, embarrassed at the loud rumble echoing down the alley. You pass merchants arranging bolts of imported Chinese silk dyed with indigo, dark and rich as midnight. A boy chases a goat, yelling curses that make an old woman whack him on the head with a ladle. You smile despite your misery. Life continues, even when yours has frozen solid. Get out of the way! Beggar! A donkey driver snarls, snapping his whip. You leap aside, nearly tumbling into a basket of pomegranates. One rolls out, splitting on the cobbles, ruby seeds scattering. The seller curses you, scooping up the sticky mess. You keep walking, wondering if today is the day your luck changes or your body collapses. Sometimes, you think about slipping into the river, letting the reeds wrap around your ankles forever. But then you imagine your corpse floating down to Basra, bumping against boats, scaring children. You decide to keep living, if only out of spite. That's your first joke quota for the night. Here's another. If being broke burned calories, you'd be thin enough to slip under locked doors by now. But despite the gnawing hunger, you remain solid, your body refusing to abandon you as quickly as your friends did. You drift through Baghdad's markets, fingers brushing the woven reed mats piled for sale. The sun climbs higher, sharpening every scent. The manure stink of camels, the sweetness of dates, the sharp bite of mint crushed underfoot. The city bustles with shouts in Persian, Arabic, Greek. An old man recites verses of the Quran, voice weaving calm through the chaos. One mainstream historical fact. Baghdad under the Abbasid Caliphate was a center of learning and trade, with scholars gathering at the House of Wisdom to translate Greek philosophical texts into Arabic. None of this helps you right now, but at least you're broke in a city renowned for knowledge. By noon, you wander to a mosque courtyard, seeking shade beneath the carved archways. You slide down against a column, knees pulled to your chest, eyes closing despite the buzzing flies and drifting prayers. You drift into sleep, the cool marble at your back soothing your fevered skin. That's your third joke quota. At least here in the mosque, nobody can charge you rent for your patch of floor. As you begin to fade into dreams, you think about the past, your lost shop selling rose water and cinnamon, the sweet smile of your wife before the sickness took her, the laughter of your children now working in other towns. Your life feels like sand slipping between your fingers. But tonight, a strange new grain will stick, a dream that might just change everything. Sleep takes you swiftly, like a kind thief slipping a soft cloth over your eyes. Your breathing slows. The buzz of flies fades into the hush of distant water. In this place between waking and dreaming, your senses sharpen. You hear a fountain bubbling nearby. Smell orange blossoms thick and dizzying in the air. You feel cool tiles under your feet as you look around a courtyard so beautiful it nearly breaks your heart. You're standing in a city you do not recognize. The walls are painted deep blue, lined with patterned tiles that glimmer under lantern light. Palm trees sway overhead, rustling softly, and above them, the moon gleams like a polished silver platter. You walk forward, your robes new and clean, your feet bare against mosaic floors cooled by the night. Ahead stands a fountain, its carved marble shining. You approach, listening to the trickling water that sings in some secret language. You peer into its depths. The moonlight slips past your reflection, revealing something glinting beneath the ripples. A small iron door, set under the fountain, its edges lined with moss. Historians still argue whether dream interpretation in medieval Baghdad was dominated more by religious scholars or by freelance mystics who traveled city to city offering insights for a fee. Either way, if you had coins in your pocket right now, you'd gladly pay for someone to explain this vision to you. You kneel and reach into the water. It is warm, almost like milk. Your fingers curl around the iron ring attached to the hidden door. You pull and feel the door yield with a heavy sigh. As it opens, a wash of candlelight floods out, revealing stairs winding down into the earth. Here's your first joke for this dreamy chapter. Congratulations! You found a secret basement in your dream. Watch it be full of unpaid bills and disappointed ancestors waiting to scold you for your life choices. You descend the stone steps. The walls glow with a golden sheen. Your heart thuds like a war drum in your chest. The air smells of old coins and damp stone. You see chests stacked against the walls, jars sealed with wax, heavy rugs rolled tightly, and boxes overflowing with gleaming gold dinars. You stand among the treasure, stunned silent. You pick up a coin, feeling its ridged edge dig into your thumb. You want to laugh, to cry, to shout until your voice cracks. You spin around, searching for the owner, half expecting an angry djinn to appear and tell you off for trespassing. But the place is silent, holding its breath just like you. A quirky historical tidbit for your dreams. Medieval Islamic treasuries often stored coins in tall ceramic jars sealed with bitumen, which kept out moisture and thieves alike, because no one wants to open a jar just to find it full of damp, moldy gold. In your dream, you move from chest to chest, lifting lids, letting the gold spill between your fingers. You think about what you could do with this wealth. Buy back your shop, hire singers to ease your lonely evenings, send gifts to your children so they never have to feel ashamed of you again. But as you reach for another chest, the dream flickers, the room darkens, the warm air turns chill, slicing into your thin robe. You hear a voice, deep, echoing through stone, whispering a city name. Cairo, Cairo, Cairo. The name loops in your mind like a snake coiling tighter. You see yourself standing in a busy square under Cairo's citadel, crowds swirling around you like an endless river. The voice whispers again. There, beneath the fountain. Then your knees buckle. The stone beneath you vanishes. You're falling through your own chest, down into the blackness of the well where your fears and memories hide. You wake with a jolt, gasping. Your eyes snap open to find the mosque ceiling overhead, patterned with geometric stars. Your robe is damp with sweat, your heart rattling like a terrified bird trapped in a jar. Outside, the muezzin calls the faithful to afternoon prayer. Merchants call out their wares. Children scream with laughter. Life resumes its mundane shape. But your dream hums in your chest like a secret drumbeat. That's your third joke quota. Dreams are free, but reality will still invoice you full price by sunset. You rise shakily, ignoring the soreness in your hips from sleeping on marble. As you step out of the mosque into the sun's glare, one thought pulses in your mind with every heartbeat. Cairo, treasure, fountain. Cairo, and though your stomach cramps with hunger and your purse is emptier than a dishonest promise, you know you must follow that dream. Even if it leads you to ruin once again. At least it is something. At least it is hope. You step out into the street, the dream still pulsing behind your eyes like the afterimage of lightning. Cairo, treasure, fountain, Cairo. It repeats with every footstep you take across Baghdad's hot, cracked roads. The sun beats down, flattening shadows to dark stains under carts and donkeys. You think of the voice that whispered to you in that hidden chamber underground. Was it an angel? A jinn? Or just your desperate mind offering false hope? Historians still argue whether medieval Baghdad's streets were paved in stone or pressed earth lined with broken potsherds to reduce dust. Either way, your feet ache equally. The soles of your sandals worn thin from endless wandering. You gather what little you own into a ragged cloth sack. An extra robe with a torn hem, a brass spoon, and a tiny scroll of poetry your wife once copied for you by lamplight. You roll it carefully and tuck it against your chest, close to your heart. Then you trudge through alleys, past stray cats gnawing fish heads, until you reach the west gate of the city. There, caravans prepare to depart. Camels chew cud lazily, bells jingling on their harnesses. Men shout prices and destinations. You approach a trader with a lined, suspicious face. His eyes flick over your ragged robe and hollow cheeks. "Cairo," you say hoarsely. "I seek passage. Cairo?" He snorts, spitting beetle nut juice onto the sand. "With what coin? Beggar? Here comes your first joke quota." You smile at him and say, "I can pay you in prophetic dreams and the privilege of my constant complaints." He laughs despite himself, revealing a single gold tooth. "Get in the back with the grain sacks. If you die, at least you'll feed the vultures along the road." You climb onto the last wagon, squeezing between burlap sacks of wheat that smell of dust and old flour. The caravan rolls forward, the wheels crunching pebbles, camels groaning with every step. Baghdad's walls shrink behind you as date palms and irrigation canals flicker past like scenes on a potter's spinning wheel. One mainstream historical fact to pass the time. Caravans from Baghdad to Cairo often took weeks, traveling through desert passes dotted with small caravanserai, resting inns where merchants could feed camels, sip water, and trade gossip about politics, taxes, and whose son ran away with whose daughter this week. Days blur into each other. The sun rises each dawn like a giant, pitiless eye watching you sweat and suffer. Your lips crack, your robe stiff with salt stains. At night, you lie curled under the wagon, staring at an ocean of stars so vast it silences all worry. The cool air tastes of sand and sagebrush. You listen to jackals yipping in the distance. For a fleeting moment, you wonder if you could simply vanish here, a nameless skeleton under dunes, feeding wildflowers for centuries to come. But then you remember the dream's golden promise, and it drags your soul forward like a hook in your ribs. Your second joke quota. Each sunrise you wake thinking, surely it can't get worse. By noon, life replies. Challenge accepted. At a dusty outpost near Basra, the caravan stops to trade dates and leather. You drink sweet tea with floating mint leaves. The trader with the gold tooth sits beside you, chewing loudly. "So, Cairo boy," he says, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. "What awaits you there? A wife? A brother's forgiveness?" You stare into your tea, swirling the leaves in its coppery depths. "A fountain," you whisper, "and a door beneath it." He raises his brows, then chuckles. Dreams are fine companions on long roads. But remember, sand swallows dreams faster than it swallows footprints. Historians still argue whether traders like him were mere transporters or also informal intelligence brokers, carrying news between caliphates, sultanates, and rebel towns. Either way, this man seems wise enough to sell his advice for gold if he wished. The caravan pushes onward, crossing hills where thorn bushes clutch the earth like twisted hands. You see vultures circling dead donkeys, smell the sharpness of their rot. You gag, spitting bile into the sand, and think for a moment of turning back. But there is nothing left in Baghdad for you. Only creditors, empty shop fronts, and memories of your wife's laughter echoing through silent rooms. You grip the edge of the wagon and watch the road roll forward in the moonlight, silvering each rock, each wind-sculpted dune, as if guiding you to the place where your fate finally waits. Your third joke quota to end this weary chapter. You think? If my dream fails, I'll just lie down in the desert and wait for archaeologists to dig me up and sell me to a museum gift shop. You smile in the dark at your own foolishness, letting the caravan lull you to sleep with its rocking rhythm. Tomorrow, or the day after, or the day after that, you will reach Cairo. And there, beneath a fountain gleaming under Egyptian sun, waits the secret only your dreams have shown you. Cairo rises before you like a mirage hardened into stone and marble. After weeks crossing sands that stripped skin from your lips and hope from your chest, you finally stand on a dusty ridge, staring down at the city that haunts your dreams. Its towers pierce the haze, minarets call the faithful, and domes gleam with baked gold under the punishing sun. You trudge down the road, feet dragging, robes stiff with dust. The city gates loom taller with each step until you're swallowed into Cairo's narrow arteries, pressed between donkeys laden with clay jars, hawkers shouting figs and honey prices, and beggars shaking bronze cups at passing merchants. Historians still argue whether Cairo's markets at this time were larger than Baghdad's or simply more chaotically arranged. Either way, right now, it feels like the entire world is compressed into these crooked streets, rattling like a jar of pebbles. Your stomach gnaws itself as you pass stalls selling roasted lamb, garlic chickpea stew, and sesame sweets drizzled with date syrup. Here's your first joke quota. You're so hungry, even the wooden skewers look delicious. You weave through the crowd, ears ringing with curses, prayers, and business deals sealed with sharp claps of palms. You search every plaza for a fountain matching your dream. The deep blue tiles, the mossy rim, the iron ring hidden beneath rippling water. Finally, near sunset, you find it in a quiet square shadowed by cypress trees. The fountain burbles softly, surrounded by pigeons pecking breadcrumbs. You sink to your knees, trembling. The tiled rim is chipped, and a thin film of algae clings to the stone. But as you lean closer, you see it, the faint outline of an iron ring under the shifting surface. Your heart pounds so hard it rattles your ribs. Tears spring to your eyes, drying almost instantly in Cairo's hot breeze. You reach your hand into the water. "Hey!" a voice barks. You jerk upright, water dripping from your sleeve. Two city guards stand over you, spears gleaming. Their faces are half shadowed by bronze helmets, their eyes flat with suspicion. "What are you doing?" one demands. You open your mouth to speak, but fear tightens your throat. The other guard grabs your arm, pulling you up roughly. The pigeons scatter in a clatter of wings. People pause to stare before drifting away, eager to avoid involvement. The guards drag you through winding alleys to a stone building with narrow windows. They shove you into a dark room where air smells of sweat, old blood, and fear. Chains rattle from the walls. You realize this is a jail. Here's your second joke quota. At least it's a place to sleep without having to negotiate rent with fleas in the street. A gaunt man with thick eyebrows enters, flanked by 2 guards. He sits behind a low table covered in wax tablets and ink pots. He flicks his gaze over your ragged robe and cracked lips. "A spy?" he asks flatly. One guard nods. The man sighs as if you've personally ruined his evening tea. "Who do you serve?" I'm no spy." You stammer. "I came here because of a dream, a fountain, a treasure." He snorts softly. "A madman. Then, or a liar." He gestures, and before you can plead further, a guard swings his spear shaft hard into your ribs. Pain explodes through your chest. Another blow cracks across your shoulders. You collapse onto the rush mat, coughing, tasting blood at the back of your throat. One mainstream historical fact: in medieval Islamic courts, dreams were often used to guide personal decisions. But confessions under torture were still considered valid legal evidence in espionage cases. You're painfully aware of both truths right now. They beat you until your tears run silent and your body sags against the cold wall. You're left there, chained to a metal ring in the floor. The night crawls past, each hour dragging like an injured animal. Rats scurry over your feet. Your head swims with pain and fear. You drift into half-sleep, dreaming of Baghdad's dusty lanes, your wife's soft eyes, the smell of cardamom tea at dawn. Your third joke quota: you think bitterly. At least they didn't charge me an overnight lodging fee for this 5-star dungeon experience. As dawn creeps through the barred window, painting thin gold lines on the stone floor, you wonder if your dream has betrayed you, or if it still hides salvation in its secret folds. You close your swollen eyes and try to hear the whisper again. Cairo, treasure, fountain. But now, only silence fills your aching chest. The morning sun creeps across the cell floor, lighting your bruised arms in thin gold stripes. You shift against the chain, biting your ankle, pain flaring through your ribs. Each breath rattles like a cracked jar. Your lips are split, your mouth so dry your tongue feels like old leather. You wonder if this is how your life ends, not in triumph, not in forgiveness, but chained in a Cairo jail for chasing a dream. Historians still argue whether medieval Cairo's prisons were centrally governed under the Qadi's office, or run more like private debtors' cells by local strongmen. Either way, neither model offered comfortable blankets or free breakfast. A clatter echoes outside your cell. Heavy keys jangle. The door creaks open. 2 guards enter, flanking a tall man with a broad chest and thick black beard streaked with gray. His robes are clean but plain, and his sandals slap softly against the stone. He surveys you calmly, eyes sharp but not cruel. "Get up," he says. You try to stand, but your legs tremble, refusing to lift you. He sighs and gestures to the guards. They haul you upright and drag you down a dim hallway smelling of mold, sweat, and stale prayers whispered into darkness. You emerge into the bright courtyard. The sudden sunlight stabs your eyes. You blink rapidly, squinting up at the tall man. His face splits into a grin so wide it looks almost painful. Then he begins to laugh. It is not a cruel laugh. It rolls out of his chest like thunder echoing over hills. He wipes tears from his eyes. gasping for breath between chuckles. The guards glance at each other, shifting uneasily. Here's your first joke quota. You half wonder if he's about to reveal he's a dream interpreter charging by the chuckle. Finally, he wipes his beard with the back of his hand and looks down at you. "Forgive me," he says. "I shouldn't laugh when you're half dead. But your story, it reminds me so much of mine." You swallow, throat burning. "Your story?" He nods, still chuckling. "Listen to this. 3 nights ago, I dreamed I traveled to Baghdad. In that dream, I walked through a poor quarter of the city. I saw a crumbling house with a dried-up fountain in its courtyard. Beneath it was a buried treasure. But I laughed when I woke up. Baghdad is vast. Who would waste time digging under some ruined fool's house, eh?" Your breath stops. The world seems to tilt sideways, the prison walls bending like melting wax. His words echo in your chest, rattling your bones. Baghdad, ruined house, fountain, treasure. One mainstream historical fact: medieval Muslim dream interpreters often warned that dreams of gold signified hardship, if not tempered by prayer. Though ironically, in your case, hardship came first anyway. The man leans closer, his eyes crinkling with mirth. "I see now you must have dreamed of Cairo's fountains. You poor fool. Dreams are strange. They send us in circles like cats chasing shadows." He snaps his fingers. "Release him. He's harmless." The guards unchain you roughly, and you collapse onto your knees, ribs screaming with pain. But your mind blazes with sudden clarity. You are the ruined man. The treasure is not in Cairo. It is back home, beneath your own cracked fountain, waiting patiently all these hungry years. Your second joke quota: it's the classic lesson. Sometimes the real treasure was the structural foundation weaknesses you neglected to repair back home. The laughing jailer helps you stand. "Go on, get out of here. And next time, eat lentils before sleeping. Less dramatic dreams." They lead you to the street and shove you out into the blinding morning. The sun warms your aching bones. The bustling market noise returns to your ears like a tide rolling in. Donkeys braying, vendors calling, beggars mumbling prayers. You stand there for a moment, swaying on bruised legs, the scent of garlic stew and dung mixing in the sharp dawn air. A wave of emotion surges through you. Relief, shame, hope, and bone-deep exhaustion. Historians still argue whether long journeys for dream-prompted quests were respected pilgrimages or merely pitied bystanders of delusion. Today, you straddle both truths. Your third joke quota. You think, "Well, at least I got a free beating, some enlightenment, and a brisk morning walk out of it." You clutch your torn robe around your shoulders and begin to limp toward the caravan road that winds back to Baghdad. You no longer seek distant dreams. Now you chase the promise hidden beneath your own feet. You walk out of Cairo with the sunrise warming your back. Each step away from the city lightens your chest, as if you've shed not only a place of imprisonment, but the chains your mind had wrapped around your spirit. The caravan road stretches ahead, lined with scraggly thorn bushes and silent stones glinting under the sun's first gold fingers. Historians still argue whether returning pilgrims from Cairo to Baghdad traveled faster out of urgency to return to work or slower to savor each oasis. For you, each step is driven by a singular burning need to reach your crumbling home and unearth the secret it has guarded all these years. You travel for days, each dawn finding you curled under a tree or bundled against a rocky outcrop. Merchants pass you with suspicious glances, their camels laden with saffron, myrrh, indigo, and iron ingots. You beg a ride now and then, offering to fetch water or gather dung for cooking fires. Here's your first joke quota. You discover that camel dung burns surprisingly well. Though it will perfume your robe with a scent no perfumer can ever neutralize. Your ribs ache with every movement. Bruises bloom purple, yellow, then green like tiny rotting fruits under your skin. Hunger gnaws at you, but each time despair pricks your chest. You whisper one word to yourself, Baghdad. Your lips shape it like a prayer. Your breath carries it like incense. Baghdad, home of your birth, your love, your ruin, and perhaps now, your redemption. One mainstream historical fact. The road between Cairo and Baghdad was lined with caravanserais spaced roughly 1 day's travel apart, offering shelter, fresh mounts, food, and safety from bandits for a fee. You sleep outside their walls, unable to pay, listening to music and laughter drift out under the stars while you nibble scraps of stale bread and dream of gold jars hidden beneath cracked stone. When finally Baghdad's domes and minarets rise on the horizon, your knees nearly buckle with relief. The city glows under late afternoon sun, dust swirling around its gates in slow golden clouds. You pass vendors hawking pomegranates and limes, silversmiths hammering earrings into shape, and blind poets reciting verses for alms. Your second joke quota, you consider paying the poet to narrate your triumphant return, but realize the only coin you have is a cracked date pit in your pocket. You make your way through narrow alleys familiar as old scars. Children chase chickens between woven mats left to dry. A goat tied to a doorpost bleats irritably as you pass. You pause at a cracked fountain trickling thin, brownish water into a broken basin littered with olive pits and stray feathers. Your heart slams against your ribs so hard it almost topples you. This is it, your courtyard, your ruined house leaning against its neighbor like a drunk clinging to a sober friend. Weeds split the stone foundation. The wooden doors sag open, creaking with every gust of wind. You step inside, the cool gloom wrapping around your sweat-soaked skin. Historians still argue whether average merchant homes in Abbasid Baghdad had central fountains for ritual ablution or simply to cool the air in scorching summers. Yours had served both, though it has long been nothing more than a cracked bowl gathering dust and dead insects. You stare at the fountain's chipped rim, the moss clinging to its edges, the thin stream of water dribbling from the rusted spout. You see again the dream, your fingers closing around an iron ring hidden under rippling water. Your chest tightens with hope and terror in equal measure. Here's your third joke quota. You whisper to yourself, if this fountain holds nothing but a family of angry scorpions, at least they'll end my poverty and my existence in one efficient sting. You kneel on the dusty tiles, ignoring the pain shooting up your bruised thighs. Your hands tremble as you scoop out water, revealing slimy stone. Your breath comes shallow and fast. Then you see it, a dark circle half buried under mud and moss. You scrape away the filth with your fingernails until metal glints in the fading light. An iron ring, exactly as in your dream. Your vision blurs with tears. You grip the ring, feeling its cold bite into your palm. Your shoulders shake with silent sobs, half relief, half dread at what lies beneath. The last rays of sunset pour into the courtyard, turning the cracked tiles molten gold. You take a deep breath. Tomorrow, at dawn, you will dig. For now, you sink back on your heels, gaze locked on that iron ring, hope blooming hot and painful in your chest like a wound torn open to let healing light pour in. The night passes slowly, each hour stretched thin as you sit awake by the fountain. Moonlight washes over the cracked courtyard, illuminating weeds that sway in the breeze like thin ghosts. Your bones ache from the cold tiles. You wrap your torn robe tighter around your shoulders, staring at that iron ring glinting under the silvery light. Historians still argue whether Baghdad's nights in early autumn dipped below 10 degrees Celsius or hovered milder due to heat retained by the city's brick walls. Tonight, every breath curls from your lips in a pale mist, and you shiver so violently your teeth rattle. You doze in and out, dreams flickering, gold jars stacked like honeycomb, your wife laughing as she pours tea, your children clapping as you toss them sugared almonds from tall brass jars. Each vision fills your chest with a sweetness so sharp it almost hurts. At first, pale dawn. You stand and stretch, your joints popping like snapping twigs. You grip the iron ring with both hands, feeling rust crumble under your fingertips. You pull. The stone groans softly, like an old man woken too early. Dust puffs up, settling into your hair and eyelashes. Here's your first joke quota. If you die digging this up, at least your grave comes pre-installed. You drag the stone slab aside inch by inch until finally, with one last heave, it tips away, revealing a narrow tunnel leading down into cool darkness. The scent rises to greet you. Damp stone, stale earth, and something faintly metallic. You lower yourself into the hole. Your sandals slip on the first rung of an ancient wooden ladder, but you catch yourself, heart hammering so loudly you fear it might wake the entire street. You descend into a small chamber lined with rough brick. A broken oil lamp lies by your foot, its clay chipped and blackened with soot. One mainstream historical fact: wealthy Baghdadi merchants often buried money jars or iron chests under their homes for safekeeping, especially during times of political upheaval or plague. Some were marked by coded signs, others hidden entirely from descendants' knowledge. You kneel on the packed dirt floor, fingers scraping aside the loose soil. Your nails split and bleed, but you barely feel it. Then, with a hollow clink, your knuckles hit something hard. You claw around it, revealing the rim of a tall jar sealed with gray wax. Another, and another. Your breath comes in ragged gasps as you pull away more dirt, uncovering 6 heavy jars lined neatly against the wall. Your second joke quota: you pray to God to let them contain gold, but part of you whispers, "Please, please, just don't let it be your grandfather's secret fermented onion stash." With shaking hands, you peel away the wax seal from the first jar. The stale, metallic scent intensifies. You peer inside. Gold coins gleam in the dim morning light, stacked tight, their edges catching every flicker like candle flames. You gasp so sharply your throat burns. Tears well up and spill down your dust-caked cheeks. Your chest heaves with sobs so deep they seem to scrape your very soul clean. You open jar after jar, finding coins stamped with long-dead caliphs' names, silver bracelets wrapped in oiled linen, tiny gemstone rings tucked into copper boxes. Treasure upon treasure, hidden all these hungry years beneath your own feet. Historians still argue whether such caches were intended as emergency funds or secret inheritances meant only for the most desperate moment. For you, their purpose feels clear. They waited for your ruin to become readiness. Here's your third joke quota. Your first thought is to run outside and shout, "Does anyone accept gold dinars minted 2 centuries ago for a fresh loaf of bread?" You sink down onto the dirt, cradling a handful of coins to your chest. Warm dawn light filters through the tunnel above, illuminating your tear-streaked face and trembling hands. All around you, gold flickers like bottled sunlight, filling the chamber with silent, patient brilliance. And for the first time in what feels like endless years, hope blooms quietly within you. fragile as the pink flowers that push between courtyard tiles each spring, yet strong enough to crack the stone of despair. You sit for a long while in that silent chamber, your knees pressed into the cool dirt, coins piled around you like molten autumn leaves, your tears dry on your cheeks, leaving salt tracks. You run your fingers through the gold dinars, listening to the soft clink and scrape of metal against metal, the sound rich and hypnotic. It almost doesn't feel real. Historians still argue whether dinars from early Abbasid mints carried purely religious inscriptions or also included poetic flourishes praising the caliph's wisdom. As your thumb brushes one, you catch the faint curve of Kufic script, words of faith pressed into gold centuries ago. Now resting in your calloused palm, you climb back up into the courtyard, limbs shaking from exhaustion and elation. The sun has climbed halfway into the morning sky, pouring honey light across the broken tiles. You gaze around at your ruined house, holes in the roof, cracked walls, weeds coiling up through the stone. But today, it does not look like a grave. Today, it looks like possibility. Here's your first joke quota. If your creditors see you now, they'll probably keel over from shock before they can even demand repayment. You haul the jars up one by one, straining your bruised shoulders. Dust billows into the still morning air. Pigeons flutter down from the roof beams to peck at disturbed insects. You pause often, sweating and panting. But each glimpse of glittering coins pushes you onward. One mainstream historical fact. In Baghdad's markets, money changers called seraphs worked in small booths lined with iron bars, weighing gold and silver on delicate brass scales to guard against clipped coins and forgeries. You imagine walking up to them soon, handing over your ancient dinars to trade for fresh currency, your debts dissolving like sugar in tea. You gather the treasure in your arms and sit quietly, leaning against the courtyard's crumbling wall. You think of your wife's gentle laugh, of your children's small hands clutching yours. You whisper a prayer for them to return soon, to see this house reborn. You will buy back your old shop. You will restock its shelves with cinnamon bark rolled into dark spirals, rose water in stoppered glass flasks, dried limes, turmeric, saffron threads glowing red as embers. You will rebuild. Your second joke quota. But first, you'll probably pay a carpenter to fix the door so your new fortune doesn't just roll out onto the street overnight. You rise and walk through each dusty room. Shafts of sun slice across the gloom, illuminating fallen plaster and dirt piles. Your heart beats strong, steadier than it has in years. This is your home, your ruin, your redemption. The walls still hold your family's voices, hidden in the cracks like jasmine seeds waiting for spring. Historians still argue whether Baghdad's merchants reinvested their fortunes mostly in trade caravans, house renovations, or public charitable endowments called waqf. You plan to do all three. You will restore your house until its carved lintels gleam with polished cedar oil. You will send caravans across Mesopotamia bearing rose oil and saffron to Damascus and Constantinople. You will sponsor a public fountain in your district so no traveler sleeps thirsty on hot summer days. Here's your third joke quota. You also consider sponsoring a public latrine because generosity is important, but indoor plumbing is divine. As dusk falls, you sit by the fountain, gold jars stacked safely beside you, and watch the western sky fade through every shade of peach, rose, and indigo. A lone star appears above Baghdad's domes, shimmering gently. Your heart swells with gratitude. You whisper, "Thank you," into the evening breeze, whether to God, to your dreams, or to destiny itself. You do not know. But the words lift from your chest and disappear into the darkening sky like a prayer offered with full and humble heart. Tomorrow, the work begins, changing the coins, paying debts, restocking the shop, hiring masons, calling your children home. But tonight, you allow yourself a simple pleasure, hope curling warmly inside you, sweet as cardamom tea on a cold dawn. Morning arrives draped in pale gold, slipping softly through the broken shutters of your home. You wake on your old woven mat, the scent of dust and stone mingling with hope in your chest. For the first time in years, you wake without dread clawing at your ribs. You rise and wash your face at the fountain, its water cold and clear. Your reflection stares back, weary but alive, eyes ringed with purple shadows yet bright with purpose. You smile despite the cracks in your lips. Historians still argue whether medieval Baghdad's water infrastructure, including household fountains, was maintained by individual homeowners or collectively through neighborhood guild funds. You run your fingers along the rim of your fountain, promising it a new mosaic of bright turquoise tiles once your wealth is changed and debts cleared. You gather the coins into cloth sacks and tie them tight. Each jar seems heavier today, their promise weighing your arms with solid certainty. You stagger through the streets at dawn, the city still quiet except for roosters crowing and bakers stoking their ovens with acacia wood. Warm, yeasty smells drift over the alleyways, making your stomach growl. Here's your first joke quota. You debate spending your first dinar on debt or on a sesame flatbread stuffed with hot cheese, survival priorities. Obviously, you reach the money changers' row near the main market. Wooden booths with barred windows line the street, each seraph perched behind delicate brass scales, weighted stones, and stacks of ledgers. You queue patiently, clutching your sacks of ancient coins, heart hammering against your ribs. One mainstream historical fact: seraphs were respected members of Baghdad's merchant class, mediating loans, managing inheritance transfers, and advising travelers on currency exchange rates from as far as Samarkand and Byzantium. When it's your turn, the money changer eyes your tattered robe suspiciously until you untie the sack and pour gold dinars across his table. His eyes widen, reflecting the yellow gleam. He tests one between his teeth, then weighs it carefully, his brows furrowing in thought. "Where did you come by these, friend?" he murmurs. You shrug lightly, voice rough with dust. "My grandfather's jars, buried before I was born, now unearthed to clear old debts and rebuild life." He nods, lips curling with faint approval. God gives and takes as he wills. He tallies their value, hands you fresh minted dinars and thick silver coins. You tuck them inside your robe, their solid weight pressing comfort against your chest. Your second joke quota: walking home with coins hidden under your robe makes you waddle like an overfed goose. But better waddling in wealth than striding in starvation. You spend the morning paying creditors. Some gasp in surprise, others scowl in bitter disappointment at your unexpected survival. You pay each one with dignity, ignoring muttered curses or forced smiles. By noon, your debts are gone, their chains snapping away like brittle twigs under your feet. You visit your old shop next. Its wooden shutters hang loose, nails rusted, the lock twisted with age and neglect. You hire 2 carpenters and a mason on the spot. As they measure, argue, and fetch their tools, you stand in the doorway, imagining neat rows of spice jars, copper trays stacked with rose sugar, and coils of cinnamon arranged like small sleeping snakes. Historians still argue whether Baghdad's merchants stocked cinnamon imported via Indian Ocean trade from Ceylon directly or through Persian Gulf middlemen. Either way, the scent of cinnamon remains a silent promise of warmth and wealth. By evening, your shop's walls stand sanded and clean, windows repaired, shutters painted fresh. You sit inside on a rough stool, watching dusk gather beyond the open door. Street lamps flicker to life one by one, their warm glow spilling across the packed earth road. Children chase each other, laughing as their mothers barter for aubergines and coriander. Your third joke quota: you think of your journey, from jail cell to this small shop, and smile wryly. All that drama just to end up exactly where I started, only slightly more bruised and better funded. You lean back, closing your eyes, feeling the pulse of life thrumming around you. Tomorrow, merchants will visit to stock your shelves. Soon, your children will hear of your fortune and return home. One day, grandchildren might sleep in your arms as you whisper this story to them, cautioning how dreams demand faith, patience, and a stubbornness stronger than hunger. Night drapes the city in deep indigo, punctured by lanterns swaying gently from windows and street poles. You lock your shop door, hearing the satisfying clink of new brass against wood. The air is cool on your face as you walk the quiet road home. Your robes clean, your purse heavy with fresh coins, each step steady and sure. You enter your courtyard, the fountain bubbling with clear water, its tired stones scrubbed clean that afternoon by hired laborers. Moonlight gleams across the restored tiles, turning each damp surface silver and pearl. You stand there, breathing deeply, letting the night fill your lungs with its soft calm. Historians still argue whether merchants like you kept household guards after sudden windfalls, or trusted kinship networks and neighbors to keep watch over their homes. Tonight, you feel protected by something quieter and stronger. Gratitude's gentle armor. You sit beside the fountain, trailing your fingers through the rippling water. Its coolness soothes your bruised knuckles, the small cuts under your nails. You watch the moon's reflection tremble and reform, like your own life returning to wholeness after long ruin. Here's your first joke quota. You realize with a chuckle that all the sages were right. Sometimes the real treasure was the unpaid property maintenance you neglected along the way. The wind rustles the date palms overhead, their feathery fronds brushing against each other in whispers older than empires. In the distance, you hear a muezzin call the last prayer of the day, his voice floating over tiled roofs and dark alleys, echoing under the wide, silent sky. One mainstream historical fact: in Abbasid Baghdad, city guards walked the streets at night carrying iron-tipped staffs and lanterns, calling out the hour and reporting suspicious noises. Their distant cries tonight feel like lullabies, keeping your new peace safe as you drift into reverie. You rise and walk slowly through your home. Each room smells of swept dust and fresh lime plaster. You touch the newly repaired door frames, the smooth plaster walls, the stack of new blankets folded neatly in the corner. You imagine your children sleeping there again, their soft breaths rising and falling in gentle rhythm. Your second joke quota: tomorrow you might buy a goat, because if you're truly wealthy, your courtyard needs something to chew your new basil plants to stubs every morning. You kneel beside your mat and offer quiet prayers of gratitude. Your forehead touches cool stone, grounding you in this moment, in this simple truth. You are no longer the ruined man. You are the man who fell to ashes and rose again, carrying gold in his hands and hope in his chest. Historians still argue whether medieval Baghdad's golden legends were exaggerations for poets' delight. But tonight, sitting among your jars of treasure and silent prayers, you know the truth. Gold exists. Hope exists. Even ruin exists only to shape a soul strong enough to rise. Here's your third joke quota to end this tale. You whisper to the night sky, "If I ever have another dream of hidden treasure, I'll just roll over and go back to sleep. You lie down on your mat, the shadows folding around you like cool silk. Outside, crickets sing their quiet chorus under the moon. The fountain gurgles a gentle lullaby. Peace flows into your weary limbs, each breath slower than the last, until your chest rises and falls with silent ease. Sleep arrives slowly tonight, like a gentle tide washing over sand. Your limbs sink into warmth and softness. Your thoughts drift on the quiet current of your breath. In this stillness, images flicker behind your closed eyes. Golden coins stacked high in clay jars. Moonlight shimmering across a clean fountain. Your children's bright eyes glancing up at you in love. The night air carries scents of distant jasmine, warm dust, and the faint sweetness of date syrup from a baker's cooling pastries. You feel each scent brush against your senses like a calming hand. Your chest softens, each breath deepening as your body releases its final tension. Outside, the city murmurs in its sleep. A donkey brays softly in a nearby courtyard. The fountain trickles in quiet harmony with your slowing heartbeat. Stars wheel in their silent dance overhead, each one a small blessing glowing above the world's troubles. Your thoughts loosen, drifting like pale petals floating down a dark river. Your memories fade into dreams, soft shapes, half-felt smiles, old prayers whispered in cool dawn air. Your breathing deepens further. Warmth spreads through your belly, curling into your chest, rising to your face. Peace holds you in its patient embrace. Allow yourself now to drift beyond these words, beyond this story, beyond this night. Let sleep take you where no hunger follows, where no fears wait, where only the gentle hush of darkness wraps you in safety and ease. You are here, you are safe, you are warm. The world will still be waiting when you wake, and tomorrow's dawn will rise softly upon you.